Still rocking after all these years.
This is the story of my rock and roll butler.
This is it, the show that started it all. Often imitated, but never equal. From San Francisco, USA. Online since 2004. It's the one and only Rock and Roll Geek Show. With the original Rock and Roll Geek, Michael Butler.
Welcome to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. My name's Michael Butler. Thanks a lot for joining me. I really appreciate it. Today is Wednesday, March 10th, 2021, and it is 9:03 p.m. when I'm recording this show open. I just got off the phone with Keith Morris of the Circle Jerks, and we had a nice 1.5 hour talk. And that's what I'm going to play for you tonight, friends. And if you listen to the last episode, I told the story about when he didn't come, when he was supposed to come on and didn't. And I did a Greatness of Keith Morris episode, and I was hoping that he was going to call in. And he was a man of his word. He called exactly 7 p.m. and we had a nice talk. We talk about UFOs. We talk about all kinds of fun things. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Keith Morris of the Circle Jerks and Black Flag and Off and punk rock legend, one of my rock and roll heroes. And he did not disappoint, friends. Hopefully I didn't disappoint either, but you be the judge of that. So I'm just going to let this go. I'm up in the mountain house right now, and I brought the Zoom P4. So that's what I did. That's what I'm doing this intro on, and that's what I did the interview on. So if there's any audio issues, blame it on the P4. But I think it's going to be okay. I now like Keith Morris more than I did 2 days ago. All right, so it was a fun interview. I think I got a kick out of it. I hope you will too. Couple of things to talk about, or one or two things. I am doing a live stream. I'm playing bass with Zetro from Exodus, Will Carroll from Death Angel, Joel Proto from Featherwitch, Butlers, and Vane, and Dave Chapman, who I don't know who he used to play with, but he's playing the part of Angus Young. We're doing a live stream on April 3rd, and I hope you can tune in, friends. Look on the show notes at rockandrollgeek.com, and I will post a link to where that thing's happening. All right. So I'm going to shut my mouth, and I'm going to let the Keith Morris interview roll, and then I'll come on after it's over, and I'll say some parting words and maybe play a tune. All right. Hope you enjoy it. It goes about an hour and a half. Here's Keith Morris. I'll talk to you soon, friends. Keith Morris, thank you for coming on the Rock and Roll Geek Show. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
I wanted to have you on for a long time, but I was always afraid to get you on this show because I had a feeling that there was a possibility that you would be overly intelligent and would put me in my place like a little punk kid. So go easy on me. I would appreciate it.
I try my hardest to not be condescending.
Okay.
Also, we hit a bump. We hit a hurdle last week, and something happened with me that normally I'm pretty much in control of a lot of the situations that I find myself in. That one was something where two of the guys in my band we're rehearsing out in a place called Pomona, and it's like a 45 to 50-minute drive from where we live. And their vehicle broke down on the 10, which is a complete nightmare. So they call in and say, we're not going to make it. And I'm going, great, now I get to leave. I hate having spent 50 minutes driving out there and being there for about an hour to just be told, well, maybe it's time to go home. Well, when it was time to go home, it wasn't time for me to go to my place. I had to drive out to Claremont, where we got into writing our script for our movie. This would be for Off, my new band Off,
Right.
And because we were working on a script, we had it hammered out. A couple of the guys are no longer with us. We got a couple of new guys, and we have to rewrite the script to fit the personalities of the two new members.
So who's no longer in Off?
Our rhythm section, it was pretty much a mutiny. We hit a wall. I don't want to say any bad things. It would be real easy for me to get into a grind and start tossing some negatives around, and I don't want to do that.
So those guys quit, or did you kick them out?
That's one got kicked out, and the other one quit because the other one was kicked out.
Isn't that great how bands never change? The drama in some bands. It's like when you were a kid starting off. It's just still the same.
And it was drama, it was the drama that was created was really seriously unnecessary. I'm 65. I'm a diabetic.
Yeah, I know. I read your book, by the way. I want to talk to you about the book, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the last thing I need as a diabetic is any kind of drama because it creates stress.
Yeah. Okay.
And stress is just fucking, that's the number one reason for diabetes is stress and messed up diet. But anyways, I'm in a situation where it's like, okay, well, you're out here and now we've got some stuff that we need to talk about. So now all of a sudden I find myself out in Claremont, and we're dealing with the script. We're dealing with some other business. We're dealing with Circle Jerks business. We're dealing with T-shirts, and all of a sudden
you were bringing
it turns
up so
into
many
this,
questions.
and
no,
like legal things, and what's going to happen when this happens, and what should we do if this happens, and so it went from me going to what was supposed to be about a 4-hour rehearsal, which would have had me back here in time to actually sit and eat a meal before I talk to you. Well, I'm not a believer of cell phones. I've owned a couple of cell phones, and they lasted like a day. When you plug them in overnight to power them up and give them juice, and if you don't hit the off switch and you put it in your pocket,
right,
all of a sudden all of your juice is gone. It's like what good is a fucking thing in your pocket if it doesn't work? Anyways, I couldn't call you. I didn't have my computer, so I couldn't write you. So, consequently, we're doing it tonight instead of last Wednesday.
Well, you called me now, and that's the most important thing. So, who are the new guys in Off? Because that was a good rhythm section you had.
No, our rhythm section was actually we had some amazing players. And the thing with those guys was we never rehearsed. Our practice would be like a half-hour practice in a hotel room or in the van on the way to the venue, right, or in the dressing room before we played. That's how we rehearsed. And I personally, I didn't care for that. I mean, it was convenient for them. And one of the guys lives down in San Diego, so he's like 150 miles from here. And it was, to get him to come up here to do anything was like fucking removing molars and,
Yeah, well, to get from L.A. to San Diego or vice versa, even though it's 150 miles, it can take 4 hours sometimes.
Yeah, well, it just depends upon the time of day, of course. Anyways, I can't really talk about the new guys. We're learning the songs, and it's a complete different scenario.
And the movie is a fictional movie, or is it like a fake documentary, or like a rockumentary, or what is it?
We're getting into like some just goofy science fiction. With some of the our lyrical content for the next record is based on conspiracy theories.
Oh, that's
like,
nice.
Yeah, like there's a place out in New Mexico, Colorado, on the border that's actually a seven level city.
You talk about Area 51?
Area 51 is in Nevada.
Right. Okay.
And we've heard the stories about Area 51. Like if you jump the fence, you're going to be shot at, and
right.
You'll have the military on your ass in like no time at all. This is another one of those areas, but it's not as. I guess it's not as secret as Area 51, and there is all sorts of stuff going on in this compound. Like one level is just all like stuff that they've gathered that belongs to. See, we're not the smartest people, and we're not the smartest living beings in the galaxy that we live in, and there's other galaxies besides the galaxy that we are in.
Right.
So there has to be life out there on some of these other planets.
So, have you been to this place that's that some of the lyrics are about?
I've not been to either of the two installations. I've just read and done research. Some of the things that have been seen in the area. They discovered they were doing some kind of animal experimentation, and they actually tried to cross a tiger with a baby calf.
Huh.
Like they discovered this carcass that had a tiger's face.
Huh.
Yeah.
Did it survive? Did any of them survive?
They found it dead, but there was like the nuns that had been out doing their like whatever, they were out passing out Bibles or telling people to come to their church or whatever. And late at night, they're driving down the road, and in the headlights, they see this green thing standing in the middle of the road. And they never really went, like they didn't race to town and tell the sheriff, you need to go out here, you need to see this thing. It's this creature with this giant tail and these red eyes or whatever it was, because they would have been laughed out of town. Everybody would have just said, well, they're just a bunch of drunk nuns.
Right.
And then there's the scenario where they've seen dogs running along the highway faster than the cars that are driving on the highway. Now, when you're driving on a highway, like a long stretch of highway, you can get hallucinations. Well, you can not only can you get hallucinations because you're drinking so much coffee or you're popping pills or whatever you're doing, smoking, or you roll your window down to blow some wind into your face to help keep you up.
Right.
But you're out on these lonely stretches, and all of a sudden you're driving probably 70, 75, maybe 80 miles an hour. Who wants to piddle along on a big stretch of road where you're not going to see anything for 100 miles? So now all of a sudden there are reports, people are talking about having seen these dogs racing along the side of the road faster than the cars that are driving on the road.
And they're dogs that look like tigers.
No, they're just dogs. For whatever reason, they're just they're doing all of this animal experimentation in these places.
Because I heard this conspiracy theory about dog people. Have you heard that one?
Well, there's people that love dogs.
No, there's people. They crossed a dog.
People.
They crossed a dog. There's one guy used to come on Howard Stern, or I don't know, he might still come on him, but he talks about he's seen crosses between humans and dogs, like a dog man in the woods.
Well, you know what? How far removed is that? You know, we have Bigfoot.
Yeah. Have you seen that
You know?
TV show Mountain? What is it, the guys that chase after Bigfoot? It's kind. I don't. People say it's a put on, but it's these hillbilly guys that you go chasing Bigfoot.
Yeah, but they're all drinking, you know, moonshine juice.
Right.
You know, out of unwashed bleach containers. So they're getting that double combo juice going.
So in the movie, is there going to be like a cross? Is there going to be like animals that are crossed between tigers and dogs? And
I don't think because of our budget.
Yeah.
We're not going to be. We're going to have special effects, but we're not going to be able to get into anything like that. That would be great, you know, the man that's like half human, half dog. But then I just watched an American Werewolf in London.
Right.
And that animal looked like just a big fat dog.
Yeah.
Like a big angry dog.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and that story, I thought the story was cool, but I thought that the monster itself was just not that happening.
Yeah, I don't know who did those monster effects in that movie. That movie was a long time ago. You just now saw that movie, huh?
Well, I've seen it before,
Okay.
but it was like when it first came out.
Yeah.
You know, so I have Netflix or Hulu or one of those things, and so I watched it on one of those channels. I liked it. I liked it a lot, and the gal that's in it was really happening. But the movie is based on some conspiracy theories. It's also part of it is about my diabetes. And we have some really cool characters in it.
Is there an Alex Jones character?
You know, I don't know what's going to happen because we've got to rewrite the script because we've got two new members in the band.
Because you guys did some kind of science fiction themed music videos before and off, right? Our
videos have just been goofy videos. Like we had 3 videos with Jack Black. We had a couple of videos with one of the kids in the hall, and no science fiction really.
There were some.
I fight a bear.
Okay, yeah. So the guys are the new guys. Can they act? Because you acted pretty well in some of the videos. Like you were acting like the promoter didn't put out flyers, and you were acting, and you did a pretty good job. Do the new guys act okay?
Well, we're going to find out.
Yeah, and I'm assuming "Off" is the soundtrack to the movie as well, right?
Yes. See, we wrote 25 songs, and we know that all 25 songs aren't going to be in the movie because there's going to be incidental incidental music that we've got to make as a band. See, the other guys weren't willing to work with us on that. And so when we had some progress happening, when we were moving forward, we had to hit the brakes.
All the off songs are really short songs, even shorter than Circle Jerk songs. Are all these songs going to be short too?
No, I think some of our songs are a little bit longer this time around, like maybe 2.5 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
2 minutes.
Kind of like the progression of the Circle Jerks. The Circle Jerk songs became a little bit longer too as you went along.
Yeah, but our thing is we're not trying to do anything that resembles the circle jerk.
So that Dimitri guy was the guitar player, right?
Dimitri is the guitar player.
So
he and I wrote 25 songs.
So he's still in the band. So the McDonald and,
Yes.
and whoever the drummer was is gone.
Yeah.
Okay. So were you and Dimitri always the main songwriters of Off?
We were the guys that wrote all of the songs.
Oh, okay.
One of the problems that we ran into was the fact that we're playing with like really happening musicians, and when you're dealing with happening musicians who are like guys that play in the rhythm section, it's always difficult to have a really happening drummer. So if if you're playing with a really great drummer, chances are
he's in demand.
He's playing in at least a minimum 2 or 3 other bands,
especially in L.A. And Red Cross still puts out records like every few years too, right?
Well, here's what was happening with that member of the band, Steven.
Yeah.
Steven at one point was asked to play with the Melvins.
Okay.
And I explained to Steven, the Melvins have a revolving door when it comes to their bass players.
I would think that Off might draw, well, maybe not as well as Melvins, but I wouldn't think Melvins would be that huge of a draw to want to leave Off for.
They're working all the time.
Oh, okay, all right.
And so here's what was happening. Steven started playing in the Melvins. The Melvins started to get real busy, and when I say real busy, they were touring at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, what's happening is Off would schedule something, and it was like, oh well, didn't I tell you that I was going to be going on tour with these guys? Steven plays in 3 bands. At the time, he was playing in 4, counting Off. And so what was happening, Steven plays in the Melvins. He also plays with his older brother Jeffrey in Red Cross.
Right.
And he also plays with Del Crover, who's the drummer in the Melvins, in the Del Crover band.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the way that it goes. Can we record? Can we have both of you guys here to record with us for 2 weeks? Could we just have 2 weeks of your time? That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was frustrating. It was depressing. It was, we spent a lot of time, and when I say we, I mean Dimitri and I, we spent a lot of time going back and forth as to, okay, who are we going to replace these guys with? Because we can't even get them in a room for 6 or 7 hours for 2 weeks straight.
Now, even when the Corova or pandemic thing is happening, you couldn't get them to. I mean, how busy can they be if nobody can play gigs?
Well, they're also dads, and they've got wives, and they've got those lives, and it's like, you know what? If you're inconvenienced, it's not because of us. It's
Right.
not because of Off.
Yeah.
You don't get to go out and play with Red Cross. You don't get to go out and play with the Melvins. You don't get to go do the Del Crover band. You don't get to do Earthless. You don't get to do Hot Snakes. You don't get to do Rocket from the Crypt. Okay, so it's like, don't blame us because you've got other you've chosen other routes and ways to create your financial situation. So we're like the low men on the totem pole. And we got to the point where we just thought we were being tossed scrap.
Yeah. Oh, I can understand that.
If there's a list of things that I have to do today, and it's either of those guys, Off isn't even, if there's 12 things that I have to do today, Off would be like 14 or 15 on the list.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not mad because we're moving on, and we, and I don't mean to be derogatory to these guys because we had fun, and when we were firing on all cylinders, it was really happening, and we did some really cool things. It just maybe we ran our course.
The new guys, did you put an ad out, or did you already know the new guys?
No. These are people that we know.
Okay, so guys that are established in the scene, but you just can't say who they are.
Yeah, I'm not at that liberty right now.
Okay. All right. Not Chuck Biscuits, right?
No, Chuck Biscuits. Chuck Biscuits. When it comes to drummers, is always on my mind. I would love to play with Chuck Biscuits again.
Yeah.
But he's. I don't think he's playing drums.
Huh.
The last I heard, he was working in a Costco up in northern Washington.
Huh. One of the greatest drummers in the world is not playing drums. Huh.
He could be. I mean, but if he is, I don't know about it.
Okay. And
and it was really difficult to reach out to him. He's on Facebook, but he's not. He's not like your typical human being. He's from a different part of the world than we're from.
Yeah. Now, you said you were also having circle jerks practices, because when we talked earlier, when I was trying to line this up, you said you had a lot of circle jerk practices. What's going on with the circle jerks now?
Well, we're doing.
I know you're doing a couple of festivals coming up once this stuff in.
Yeah, but we're doing way more than that.
Huh.
It was one of my friends came to me and said, "Keith, I'm willing to bet that you have nothing for your retirement." And
is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a record collection that might be worth $10,000. I've got a DVD collection that might be worth $1,000.
You can't retire with 11. You can't retire with 11 grand.
No, unless I get lucky and go to a party and Budweiser Harris is there, or the one of the daughters of Max Factor, or something like that happens.
Yeah.
You know how Johnny Rotten is married to a woman who apparently she's part of the Guinness family, or some part of something like that.
She's rich.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we can always hope.
Yeah, but I'm not that lucky, and I don't go out that much. I'm a senior citizen. I'm 65 years old. Getting back to the circle jerks, before COVID hit, we had 70 shows lined up. And we hadn't advertised. We'd only advertised probably a third of them. And COVID hit, and now we're just waiting for, are we going to be able to go to England? Are we going to be able to go to Europe? We have about 3 or 4 weeks worth of shows over there. Are we going to be able to play all of these big festivals here? Punk Rock Bowling, Riot Fest. Are we going to be able to do those? Are they going to? Apparently, we're sooner than later.
Is there
because we're starting to get vaccinated, and that's a really big deal.
Yeah. Is there big money offers on the table for circle jerks to play?
Big money. What would you consider big money?
I don't know. I guess I would consider like 15 grand.
There's offers. See, the festivals pay way more than that
for one set.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. You can make
a 55, 60-minute set.
You can make your yearly. You can do year's wages on a couple of gigs.
Well, we had 70 shows booked, and the way that it's set up is we're not getting in a van and driving from city to city.
Right. It's usually like fly-ins, whatever.
Well, yeah, on weekends.
Right.
Fly in, and then make sure that you're doing like 3 or 4 shows over the course of the weekend. They're all within driving distance, and that would be when we would get in the van.
Yeah, and you can put it. I guess with that kind of money, you could pull in 50, 60 grand in a weekend.
Not really.
Yeah, okay.
Because you're going to be playing some clubs,
right? Okay,
that are
right.
they're not going to be making anything close to that.
What is Circle Jerk's draw now, people wise? I know I'll be there if they come anywhere near San Francisco.
We draw like stick figures and dogs.
Yeah, okay.
And,
all right, got it.
Learn to draw out of the comic book.
It was a dumb question.
You know what? We don't know. We don't know.
So how long how long has it been since you guys have played?
Oh, geez, I couldn't tell you. I don't pay attention to stuff like that.
And it's Greg is in the band. I'm assuming Xander Slosh is still playing bass.
Yep, Xander.
And who's on drums?
I can't tell you. It's a super secret. We're not letting anybody know until we're actually doing it, and they'll see us doing it.
Maybe Lucky's back in the band.
I'm going to say no on that.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Well, Chuck Biscuits, that's out. Maybe Keith.
Well, I would have
back
loved to have Chuck Biscuits play with us.
Yeah. Keith was a good drummer too, tax guy.
Keith Clark was a good drummer. Lucky was, in his time, Lucky was untouchable.
That guy, that original rhythm section for Circle Jerks was one of the best rhythm sections in all of music, not just punk rock. At least in my opinion, I thought they were amazing.
Well, thank you for that compliment. And now, where do I send the check?
Yeah, okay. All right, so I can't wait for that to come out.
Are you going to give out your address over your?
Everybody knows. Everybody knows my address who listens to this podcast. I give it out all the time. So
okay.
215-946 Avenue, San Francisco, 94116. All right, come.
So, do they ever line up outside your house like they want to meet you and they want to talk to you and they want to polish your car?
Well, now that you mention it, actually people have come over to my house and I've made them dinner and they have taken me to concerts and I let them crash on my floor or in a spare room and I'll make them dinner and they send me presents as well.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there going to be any new Circle Jerk music?
We aren't that band.
Yeah.
Everybody, well, I don't know about Greg, but Xander's always writing music. But Xander is also a singer-songwriter when he's not playing rock and roll. So, he's probably more wrapped up in that. Plus, they're the reason I'm in off, and I need to take this time to thank them for that because
Dimitri came in to help Circle Jerks write tunes, right?
Well, he was going to produce our record, and he got to the point where it was both he and I were completely frustrated because we were using a practice space, and we would meet in the practice space, and nothing was happening. Nobody was there. There were no riffs. There were no musical ideas coming out of these guys, and it was really frustrating. And so, rather than pay for a rehearsal space where nothing was happening, I said, let's just meet in my living room. My living room's centrally located. 2 of the guys live half a mile from here. Greg would have had to drive in from the valley, but it was no big deal because if he got if he got in on the freeway at the right time, he could make it over here in half an hour.
Where do you live? You live in Hollywood or?
I'm in the eastern tip of Hollywood.
Okay.
And the slums and lowlands of Los Feliz.
Okay.
I'm right behind a place called the Vista Theater, which sits on Sunset Boulevard.
Okay.
And so I'm at a cross section. I'm at a street corner, there's like 7 corners.
You rent an apartment?
If it is an apartment, it's a bitchin' apartment. Hardwood floors, curved ceiling.
You own it or you rent?
I rent.
Okay.
I'm not responsible enough to own, and I don't want to have to deal with the bank and the loans and to pay back the loan and then refinance and go through all of that stuff. I just kind of look at it, and this is kind of goofy, but I just look at it as like being a hole where you're tossing money into it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah.
But the same thing with the apartment. I mean, I'm tossing money into this hole.
Well,
but,
at age 65, who knows how long we have left? I mean, I'm right behind you. I'm 59, so.
And my rents here in this part of the world are just beyond ridiculous.
Yeah. You live in a rent control apartment?
I am.
You've been there for a long time, then. I'm assuming rent's pretty cheap.
I've been here for about 23 years.
Yeah. Do you know Handsome Dick Manitoba?
I do.
Yeah, he lives in a rent control apartment too, and he's got a real nice place, and he pays no money too for his rent. He says hello, by the way, as well. Sorry to change the subject.
Oh no, that's okay. And now you know that the dictators are back together without Handsome Dick.
Yes, I know that quite well.
Yeah, I guess there was some kind of back and forth and fallout between him and Adney Chernoff.
Yeah, Andy doesn't like Dick, and Dick doesn't like Andy, and Ross the boss goes wherever they pay him money, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you would consider him a musical mercenary.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have to say that you were a huge influence on me, and you're always one of my rock heroes. The Circle Jerks played a huge part in my musical upbringing. I was in a Florida hardcore band. There was like a scene happening in Florida around the same, like a little bit later than the West Coast. The LA hardcore scene pretty much started the entire genre of music, I guess if you call it a genre. And you are the reason that I started playing punk rock. So, you know what? We played with you guys in several shows in the Midwest around the Indianapolis area during like the wonderful time, which was, you said you don't remember at all because you were coked out a lot. Right.
Well, beer and coke and all the other party favors that come along with it. Never did heroin though.
Yeah.
No, my one and only time doing heroin, I was told it was coke.
Yeah, that happened with me with angel dust once when I was a kid.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, a cute girl said, "You want to go to the car and do some coke?" And it was a cute girl, and it turned out to be angel dust. But that's another story. What's a typical day like for you? What do you do when you wake up in the morning?
I'll lay in bed and look at the computer, unless it's one of the days where I don't really have anything going on, and that might be maybe on Saturday or Sunday. So I'll lay in bed. Maybe I'll watch a movie on the computer. Like I said, I got Hulu and Netflix. And then I'll get up and I'll splash some water on my face with some soap and
so
brush my teeth.
You just hang out around the house all day is what you're saying.
Well, we've been in quarantine, so you kind of get used to that. Mm-hmm. I do, but I live in a great neighborhood, so I have no problem. Let me continue on my day. I'll get cleaned up, and I'll make some breakfast. And my breakfast normally consists of some granola, and I'll either use orange juice to get it juicy, or I'll use this. I'm drinking vanilla-flavored almond milk, unsweetened, because, yes, I am a diabetic.
Yeah.
But I'll cook myself, I'll poach an egg, and I'll either make a turkey patty or I'll cook up a couple of slices of turkey bacon.
So you're not a vegetarian, because a lot of old punk guys are vegetarians.
Yeah, and a lot of them are Republicans too. So hey, to each his own. And if that's what you want to be, fucking be that. But just leave me alone. Yeah. Leave me out of it.
Got it. Yeah.
But being a diabetic, a vegetarian meal every now and then is not the end of your world. I eat a lot of burritos. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I eat a lot of bean and cheese burritos with some salsa and some lettuce and tomato and maybe some guacamole.
Yeah, there's good burritos in L.A., but the best burritos are probably in San Francisco.
You sure about that?
Well, other than that, I've never really hung out in Mexico, so I haven't really had the burritos in Mexico.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The Mexican food that we have here in the States, a lot of it's not like the Mexican food that they eat down in Mexico. Their situation, they don't have a lot of the lettuce and tomatoes to add to their burritos,
Burritos in San Francisco are like so big you can eat. That's your meal that's your food for the entire day. I have one burrito. It's like the size of your forearm. You've been to San Francisco, so I'm not telling you.
Yeah, but here's my thing. When I eat a burrito, I only eat half a burrito.
Yeah,
I don't. Being a diabetic, it's like I'm trying to limit my insulin usage.
Do you have to take a shot every day?
Shots is what it is, and
so
the way that I'm trained. Yeah, the way that I'm trained is when I get ready to sit down for a meal, I look at the meal, and I count the amount of insulin I'm going to need to
counteract
take care of the meal. Mm-hmm. Also, before I do that, I do a glucose count.
Yeah,
I prick my finger, I give the machine some blood, and it tells me what my glucose count is. And I have to adjust accordingly, because if my glucose is high before I eat, I've also got to compensate for that.
Yeah.
So if I'm using 3 units of insulin for my meal, but I clock in on the glucometer at, say, 205, 215,
which is that's high.
I get to run high because I've had. I've experienced what equate to be 3 comas.
Right. Yeah, I read the book.
And my diabetologist said, you, because you're so good with what you eat and trying to keep things where they're supposed to be, you can run high. You get. I give you permission to run high, and I did a thing where I actually placed myself on a diet where I was using maybe 8 units a day of insulin, and my diabetologist, she wigged out because I lost 10 pounds over the course of about 3 months, and all I was doing was I stopped eating pizza, I stopped eating spaghetti, I stopped eating French toast and pancakes.
All of that makes your sugar go through the roof.
Well, it depends upon. I use a sugar-free syrup. See,
but pasta, and all the carbohydrate, the starches have the sugar too, right?
Right. So do vegetables. So the thing was that I was doing this conscientiously, and she all of my blood level, they do a test where they use a larger needle because when they're removing blood cells, they don't want to crush them. If they're using a fine needle, it crushes the blood cells. They want the blood cells to be intact because they can read the amount of sugar and carbs that are attached to the blood cell. So they have a count where they do that like every 3 or 4 months to see how you're doing.
Right.
But my cholesterol, my diabetologist was always like, you got to take a SAT, and you got to take cholesterol medicine.
Well,
and
you have
it's
high
like,
cholesterol too, in addition to
but if your good cholesterol is high, it counteracts the other bad cholesterol.
right.
So my good cholesterol was high enough to where she said you can get away with, your glucose, your cholesterol levels being what they are. But she said, out of all of the years that I've been doing this, I've never seen anybody do what you did. And what was happening was I was seeing her once a year. And I went in and she was just floored. She was almost in tears. She said, I've never experienced this.
And that's a good thing?
It's a really good thing.
Okay.
And then I went out and celebrated, and it's been all downhill since.
Okay. So your day consists of staying
I'm
home.
at breakfast. Okay, I'm at breakfast.
Yeah.
I'll take a handful of supplements.
Vitamins.
And then,
Which vitamins are very good protecting against the corona.
I saw I heard a report that one of my friends sent me over. He messengered it to me on Facebook. And what it was a woman. She was either a doctor or a nurse in one of the hospitals on one of the islands off the coast of China. And she said they've started to perform autopsies. This was very early on. This was like 4 weeks in, 4, 5, 6 weeks in. She said they're starting to perform autopsies. They're discovering this fluid, this mucus that's hardening in all the little air sacs in the lungs. And she started to say, well, you need sunlight.
Right, vitamin D.
Yeah. Very important.
Yes, I take
extremely important.
Take a huge amount of vitamin D every morning because I don't want to catch the thing.
Well, that's just part of it. She went down a list. There were like 5 or 6 supplements. Vitamins and minerals.
Okay. Is that zinc?
And the minerals that she got into were zinc,
right,
calcium, and magnesium.
Yeah, which is a good multivitamin. Will help that.
And they make that because that's what I take in the morning. It's D3.
Yep, that's right.
The right amount of D3.
Yep, I do the
same.
same.
Right amount of magnesium.
Yep.
The right amount of calcium. And the right amount of zinc. The situation is that you take the magnesium and calcium because they help you relax. You don't want... Is that your phone?
It's probably yours. You're probably getting somebody texting yours, or no, you don't have a cell phone.
No, I'm just gonna continue because if they want to call me, they can call me back.
All right. Well, we got about 15, 20 more minutes if you can do it.
Okay. So the magnesium and calcium, if you're struggling to sleep, they prescribe that, or tell you that's what you need to take before you go to bed to help you relax and go to sleep.
Right.
And the role that plays is that it also calms your nervous system down. And your nervous system plays a big role in this situation because if you're stressing out and you're freaking out and your brain's jumping all over the place and you're drinking a bunch of coffee and you're all jittery and you're anxious and all of that stuff, it it weakens your immune system. It puts stress on your immune system.
Lack of sleep does that, yes.
Yeah, and you want your immune system just to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. So we've had breakfast, then we took some vitamins.
And then I'm gonna play some music.
Okay.
I'll normally on my
and
on
what
my
time
computer.
of day is it? Are we at 10 o'clock a.m. or noon or 1 p.m.?
It just depends upon the day, and just depends upon how I feel and what I have going on. Like, say if I'm going to be talking to people on the phone, or if I have a bunch of emails that I need to respond to, or if there's a bunch of garbage happening on Facebook and I need to step up and tell somebody that they're wrong and maybe you need to reconsider what you're saying, or I also will go out and take a walk, take a fast-paced 25-minute walk. Being a senior citizen, they don't want you to jump on your bike and ride 25, 30 miles,
You could break a hip.
That and burst a blood vessel, or have your brain blow up in your skull, or your eyes pop out of your head. So I'll do that every other day. I was working out, but my situation was COVID stopped us from being able to go into a gym,
right?
Where there might be 10 other people working out.
Yeah.
And I was very fortunate because I was working out in a gym where maybe there might be 8 people max at any time in the gym. And so with the COVID, it's no, you can't go into a gym because everybody's breathing hard, and you don't want to be around people, even wearing masks. And it's kind of difficult to work out in a mask when you start when you're breathing, you're breathing seriously and you're pumped up, and
it's kind of difficult to do anything in a mask, really, for me.
But you can't use that as an excuse to not wear a mask.
Right.
You could get a lighter fabric.
I have it down a little bit below my nose, and I always get lectured when I'm in the store because it falls down below because it fogs my glasses up. I can't see with the mask over my nose.
Can you see without your glasses?
No.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. So I'm bumping into the walls.
I wear glasses. I wear glasses. They get fogged up. I just take my glasses off.
Yeah, I'm either bumping into stuff or getting lectured at the grocery store.
Yeah. You probably could figure out another time to go to the grocery store where there's not a bunch of people standing around wanting to lecture you.
Yeah. Well, avoid the employees. And
there's stuff that you can do. There's some kind of spray, or there's some kind of something that you wipe on the lens of your glasses.
Yeah. Who's got time to deal with that?
Well, it
stuff?
just depends upon how much time you spend out there. We're wearing masks, and we're going to be wearing masks for quite a while. It's just that's the way that it is.
Yeah.
And because it's not going away. I mean, we're flattening it, but it's not going away because there will always be pockets of it, just like there's pockets of SARS, just like we have our seasonal flus. Because it's nothing, it really is, because it's an airborne virus, it's just like the flu, but it's just a different form.
Yeah. All right, so you get exercise, and are we gone through your day yet? We finished your day?
No, we're going to watch some NFL channel.
Oh, okay, you like football, okay.
Okay, well, but that's just in the background. I mean, I don't even have the volume up because I'm listening to music.
Football more than baseball?
I'm my favorite sport is football.
Okay.
And Why are you disappointed? Because you said baseball. I'm a Dodger fan. I mean, I've always been a Dodger fan because I live in Los Angeles.
Right,
so, and now LA has a couple of NFL teams, and I'm even though I'm a Raiders fan, I'm still a fan of the Chargers because they're here.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of the Rams. Although I stopped being a fan of the Rams when they moved to St. Louis. Mm-hmm. Except when they played in the Super Bowl. They played in a couple of Super Bowls, and I rooted for them because of the teams they played against. Anyways, I'm actually a huge sports fan. I live in Los Angeles. I'm like 3 miles from what could be considered the largest ghetto in North America. I'm like 3 miles from South Central.
Right.
So we've got Crips and Pyrus and Frontline Bloods. And the fact of the matter is that those neighborhoods, they're people shooting at each other. And it's not the police shooting at these people. It's all of these gang members and teenagers and like kids getting shot on corners. And for some of the kids that live in the ghetto, the only chance they have in the world is to hopefully get a scholarship at USC or UCLA or one of the other colleges or universities to get out of town, and because they can run fast and jump high and catch the baseball or kick the ball through the goalposts or slam dunk, or
right.
Something like that. And being in a punk rock band, we were always anti-jocks. But there's a difference between a jock and an athlete.
Yeah.
You're watching these guys play football, and some of them do have a jock mentality. Like, I'm better than you, and I'm cooler than you, and you fucking Devo, and, this and that.
Yeah.
And we experienced enough of that. But I also grew up around a lot of athletes that had nothing to do with the jock mentality because they were surfers and skaters.
Right.
And skiers.
Yeah.
And eventually they would go on to be snowboarders, and so it's like these kids, like with single moms, or they do have a dad, but there's like 5 kids in the family, and a lot of them don't have a chance to get out of there unless they can run their way or play their way out of there. So that's the reason why I love sports. That's my excuse for sports. And I played sports when I was a kid, but when I graduated high school, I weighed 76 pounds.
Yeah, and me both.
I was not going to be able to play on the D team,
right.
the freshman team.
That's in your
Even
book.
when
You
I was
talk
a
about that in your
senior.
book. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so you have the NFL channel on. Are we done with the day? We're still on the day, right?
Well, we're into the night, and then I would be talking to somebody with the podcast.
Yeah, lame podcast. Did you used to have a podcast?
I had a podcast that dealt strictly with conspiracy theories.
Oh, really? Huh?
Yeah, so it was real easy for me to get lyrical for the off record, because in my podcast it was called Blow Mind. We don't do it anymore because we did like 45 episodes, and the deal was we had people that we wanted to go to get sponsorship.
Uh-huh.
Because all of a sudden we were devoting a serious amount of time on the podcast.
Now, who's we? You had a co-host?
My friend Pete Weiss, he plays drums in a band called Thelonious Monster.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
and he's my neighbor. He's across the street.
Right.
One day, I was drinking iced coffee in front of the coffee shop at the end of my block. It's no longer there, but I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I'm having a conversation with Pete. and we're arguing, but we're arguing like we're a couple of bros, and it's not that big of a deal. And in our back and forth, Pete said, "You know what? We should start a podcast. You and I have a rapport with each other. We should start a podcast." I said, "Well, Pete, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do?" And he said, "Well, how about conspiracy theories?" And I'm like, "Well," then I looked up in the sky and I see all of the white stripes in the sky, and I said, "Let's find out what all of that's about."
Yeah, the chemtrails.
Yeah. You know, and going into that, we watch some footage of one of the main guys at the CIA holding a big press conference where he's actually volunteering that the CIA is spraying aluminum nanoparticles to alter the weather.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard there's an earthquake machine too.
Yes. And apparently they already used it on China.
That's what I've heard.
And it destroyed one of China's largest munitions depots.
Yeah.
And, you know, an earthquake is something that they can't blame on somebody else.
Yeah.
Or they can, but how could they prove it?
So,
but anyways, getting back to the chemtrails, in our research, I also read about a conference that the Air Force is holding, press conference, where one of the big shots in the Air Force steps up and volunteers that they're spraying lithium. Okay, so now we're talking all of these metal particles.
Yeah. And what is the reason for that? To drug the population?
Well, it's what the Nazis used on the Jews in the concentration camps.
That's how they keep us stupid, or keep us in control.
Yeah, keep us in place, get in line.
Yeah.
And then,
do you have any conspiracy theories about coronavirus?
There's all sorts of. One of the first things I heard was that one of the because there's two labs there in Wuhan. They're not in Wuhan, but like out in the suburbs of Wuhan.
Right.
And one of the guys that works in one of the labs, they're experimenting on animals, maybe bats or
pangolin.
Yeah, and his job is to dispose of these animals that they've done the research or whatever the experimentation they've been, pulling off on them. And his job is to dispose of them. And in his mind, it's like, well, I'm not like chopping them up and burying them. I'm taking them to the open air meat market.
Right. Right. Yeah. How about like conspiracy theories about the U.S. government using the coronavirus to control the population or something like that?
Well, I've heard New World Order.
Build back better.
We've also we're experiencing this thing where a lot of the businesses in my neighborhood are no longer accepting cash. It's all credit card. And that's part of New World Order in that we're dealing with the big banks. And it's a total fucking scam because it costs you I don't even know what the percentage is, but you pay a percentage each time you use the credit card.
And they can shut off your bank account and then you're screwed.
Not only that, but they're also charging the merchant a percentage.
Yeah, they're making it
for
both ends.
Accepting your card.
They're raping us on both ends.
Taking it in the mouth and the ass.
Right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, double ender.
Yep.
All right. We've talked. We're almost an hour. We're an hour into this. We've not talked music at all. But
we talk some music.
Yeah, a little bit. Have you heard your audiobook? Because you didn't read the audiobook. You did not read your audiobook. Have you heard the guy who reads your audiobook?
I met the guy over here at one of the bookstores because I was doing a reading, to
promote the book,
advertise my book, I'm talking to a room of people. There's probably 50 people there, which is great for a book reading. And afterwards, I'm signing all of the books, and he steps up and says, this is my name, and he shakes my hand. This was back when we could shake hands, and he said, I read your book. I'm the voice of your audio book. And I wanted to be mad. I wanted to be fucking angry. I wanted to, like, blow the guy up with the laser beams that shoot out of my eyes.
Why didn't you read the audiobook?
They didn't ask me to.
Why not? I wonder why not.
I got to the bottom of it, and the situation was that the book company that put out my book was purchased by a larger company, and somebody at the larger company took it upon themselves to hire this guy to read my book.
Because I read the book and I listened to the audiobook. I listened to the entire audiobook last week when you were supposed to come on so I could refresh on the book, because I read the book about 6 months ago. It would have been a lot better if you would have been done the voice.
Well, I had a few people that were angry that it
Well, I wasn't angry.
Me doing
I wasn't angry, but it would have been better if you read it.
Well, like I said, I actually had friends that listened to the audiobook, and they were pissed off that it wasn't me reading my stories.
Yeah, the guy doesn't even sound like you at all. I mean, you would think that they would get a guy at least sounds a little bit like you, but, well.
Well, I'm working on a second book.
What is that book about?
All sorts of fun stuff.
Is it rock and roll related too?
Of course. Okay. I mean, I'm writing about myself and just stories, and one of the chapters I know is going to be just because I've been hit up by a bunch of people like, well, why didn't you tell more stories about, like, the concerts that you went to when you were younger, and right. Like what drugs you were using in the parking lot, and just stuff like that, and in these books. Somebody wanted to know why you didn't talk more about your love life and all of the girls and the women you've been with. And
was there a lot?
No, like an average guy. I'm no playboy.
The stories that I liked in the book most of all was when you were decided to manage bands.
Oh, that was a horrible period for me. I was completely sober. But then I was surrounded by all of these drunks and future heroin addicts. I loved the bands. I loved the people and the personalities. Everybody was cool. I mean, there were a couple of people that weren't cool, but it was that's okay. It's like.
What was fascinating to me about it is that with their typical story, the bands that you were managing, the Hangmen. You talked about the Hangmen and you talked about the Nymphs. And the Hangmen, you got them a deal with Capitol Records, and this girl Rachel Matthews, who I actually know Rachel Matthews because I used to play in a band that got them signed to Capitol. Anyway, that's besides the point. And then they turn on you. The band just completely drops you, and you don't get one dime from it, right?
I got thanked on the back of the record.
Right, and the same thing happened with the Nymphs.
And the Nymphs deal was probably
multi-million dollars.
Yes. The Nymphs did the first video the Nymphs did was with this guy who had done all of the Cure videos. I forget his name.
I don't know. I had Inger Laurie on the show about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that you managed them though. But that was
yeah, and that was like, see you later, Keith.
And you were her boyfriend for a short period of time.
Well, I lived with her, like, right around the corner from where I live. I lived with her, I think maybe it lasted 4 months. And she was... maybe 5 months.
She was super hot, too. I can only imagine. I mean, I'm not going to ask you, but I'm not going to ask Howard Stern type questions. But she was super hot. And was that the hottest girl you ever had?
Well, I don't consider it like I had this.
I mean, I don't mean it in a sexist. I mean the hottest girl that you had ever had for a girlfriend.
I was completely in love.
Yeah.
She'd asked me to marry her about 5 or 6 times. Her parents loved me. It was like I wasn't like your typical rock burnout drug addict, IQ of like a 6th grader.
Right. Smart
guy. I could actually
legend.
sit with their parents and carry on conversations. And
unlike the complete opposite of the guy in the Sea Hags, who was probably not very smart.
Well, that was when she started seeing him, I was still living with her, and I had been paying rent and paying utilities and buying the food and putting gas in her car, and I was not going to be exiled onto the couch in the living room.
Like the guy who you took the place of.
Right, but I didn't know that she was living with him.
Right.
And then when I was there, the one night he was there, it seemed like they were distant. Like they weren't boyfriend, girlfriend.
Right. They were
like
being
maybe they were just roommates.
They were playing it. Oh, right. Got it. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
He'd been.
She'd already exiled him to the living room.
She exiled him to the living room, and she did the same thing to me. And I was not sticking around paying rent. Or,
didn't you think you had any kind of legal right to any of that money?
Nothing was in writing. All of our dealings was just, like bro deal.
Do you believe in karma?
I believe in karma.
Because both of these bands, I guess they got their karma, huh?
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't sit around. I'm not that guy. Like, I only wish bad things on these people.
Well, I'm just asking because these are stories in your book, and I thought they were great stories.
Well, all of it happened because I had a big opening in my life, and that is that the Circle Jerks, because Greg Hetson was a member of Bad Religion, the Circle Jerks got reduced to just being a part-time band, if that.
Yeah.
So I needed to do something to that will lead to some kind of
another way to make some money.
Yes.
And
so I ended up living with the hangman and not paying rent. I didn't have to pay rent, so I would subtract that from any money that would have been owed to me by Capitol Records.
Have either Inger or the guys in Hangman came and apologized to you for the way you were treated?
No. Brian, the guitar player, songwriter, lead vocalist, he's a great human being. He actually at one point contacted me on Facebook and said, "How could you write what you wrote about us?"
What?
I explained to him. I said, "Brian,
it's what happened, isn't it?"
Well, I said, "Brian, I didn't sugarcoat anything, and I was not taking any jabs at anybody. If I really wanted to get nasty, I could have got nasty, and I didn't want to. All I was doing was telling a story." And he didn't apologize, but he said it in a way that was cool. I got it. He understood that my feelings were hurt.
Well, it's more than just feelings, though.
Well, yeah, and I if I wanted to, I could have taken digs at all of them, but I didn't. All I did was just tell an interesting story.
Yeah,
and they got dropped. They didn't make a second record for Capitol.
And that record, you can't even find that record, that Capitol release.
Well, and it doesn't really. It's not. It's not good for them because of the way it was mixed.
Right, that's what I heard.
The way that it was recorded was pretty badass.
Yeah, they said
because
that
we
Capitol remixed it horribly.
Yeah, and that's the way that they mixed everything at that time.
And I heard that the original recording, didn't the guy from Bad Religion record that Nymphs out demos?
Well,
no, the guy from Epitaph.
Brett, who was one of the guitar players, songwriters in Bad Religion, who's one of my friends, he and I recorded demos for both the Hangman and the Nymphs.
Yeah, I heard those recordings are better than the Nymphs' actual release.
Well, I worked at a record label, and one of the reasons that I worked at the record label was because the president of the record label wanted to sign the Nymphs based on the demo that Brett and I recorded, and he said that demo was ready to go. It would have changed up a bit in the mastering because they've got ways of like making things, making like brightening things and
hotter and stuff.
Yeah. He said that demo sits on my desk in the New York office. If you were to come walking into my office, one of the first things you would see on the desk is the Nymphs demo. He said, I wanted to sign them. This is a guy who was responsible for Smashing Pumpkins. Oh, who else?
That label's V2? Is that the label?
Yeah. But the thank yous from both of the bands were just including my name in a long list of
it's kind of
people they were thanking on the back of their albums.
It would have been almost like them just saying, fuck you, Keith Morris. I mean, it would have been about the same, pretty much.
Yeah, but I was hurt, but at the same time, it's like, what am I supposed to walk around for the rest of my life dissing on these bands and dissing on these people?
You worked really hard to get them these deals because you thought it would be. Not only did you believe in the bands, but you wanted some financial gain out of it too, and they totally screwed you financially. Did Inger ever apologize to you, or say, or make amends, or not make amends, but say the way anything about it?
Well, normally when you're working a program, and a lot of these people needed to work programs.
Right, got it.
You apologize.
Right.
They're amends.
Right.
They're people that you fucked over, and you need to go back to them and say, look, I was out of my mind, and I have a few excuses, and what I did to you was totally uncalled for, and I apologize. I didn't get any of that. But it's okay. Like I said, I can't sit around hating on all of these people that have, done stuff that has pulled the carpet out from underneath me. I explained to you I didn't want to talk bad about the members of OFF that are no longer members of OFF because they are good guys. I mean, and they're great players.
I don't want you to badmouth anybody because that's not what I'm about. Getting people to badmouth.
Yeah.
There's good stories. There's two more subjects I wanted to bring up. We've been on over an hour, and I appreciate you taking your time. If I could bring up two more subjects, if you don't mind. One, the time when the bug lamp stuff with Daniel Ray. You said you wrote a bunch of tunes you went to New York for a while, and you met up with Daniel Ray, and we wrote a bunch of songs with Daniel Ray, right?
I want to say he and I wrote what equated to be about 8 or 9 songs, and we're working in his living room. And one day, the buzzer rings, and he lets the guy up, and it turns out to be Michael Alago, who signed a band. I know who he is. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, he signed a band that put out an album that had like 4 number 1 hits. That one of the songs is like one of the makeout songs during the summertime, and they're actually
there's a documentary
there's
a documentary on this guy too.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, I met him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, I don't care for a lot of the stuff that he signed, but hey, there's a market for that.
Yeah.
He tapped into it. You sign a band of the stature of Metallica,
Right.
and you pretty much get to write your way through the rest of it.
Yeah.
And he's probably still paying his bills from what he receives in royalties.
Yeah. He said he heard the music and he said, when you guys get a band together, I'd like to sign. I'll get you guys a deal or whatever. I'll sign you guys, right? Right.
And then because of that, all of a sudden I get a call from Rick Rubin.
Uh-huh.
Rick Rubin's still living in New York. He's still doing Deaf American. Right. And so all of that stuff's kind of going on. And then my idea for the band was we were going to be bi-coastal because Daniel lived in New York.
Yeah.
And I was only living in New York because I was taking a break from the West Coast.
Right.
And I was kind of, at the time, I was in a wandering Jew nomadic position.
Yeah.
And I had a friend that lived in New York down in the Lower East Side. She said, I've got an extra room and I'll charge you like a couple of $100 a month. And I was there. I think I was in New York for about 3.5 months. And Daniel came to a point where he said, now I've got to go to work because I've got an album that I have to produce for RCA.
Right. Circus of Power.
Circus of Power, yes. And as it turned out, Circus of Power, they're supposed to record an album. They have like 4 songs.
Yeah.
That's not enough for a record, which means now they got to get in. They're in pre-production, and they got to start hammering out songs for their album.
So he's going to be in the studio forever and not have time to do.
Well, as it turns out, they started recording, and Daniel realized, there's a lot more work that's going to be happening. He called me out here and said, Keith, I'm not going to be able to come out. I won't be able to come out there for at least 6 months. He said, what you should do is you should probably just go ahead and get a second guitar player. See, because the other guys that were playing in the band, playing in Bug Lamp, lived here.
In L.A.
Yeah.
Right.
Granted, one of the guys was from Texas, and one of the guys was from Narlands.
And they were great musicians, hotshot musician guys.
Yeah.
My question is, where are those songs that you guys wrote? Did they ever get recorded?
We ended up recording 2 songs.
They're covers. You recorded 2 covers, right?
Yeah.
Alice...
We recorded 2 covers. We recorded an Alice Cooper track.
Right, great version. I played it on my last podcast, actually.
And actually, Daniel did make it out here to the West Coast, so we started rehearsing with him, and we recorded a Ramones track.
Yeah, Howlin' at the Moon.
And then Daniel left. Our time frames mixed up because he had to go back to New York to do the Circus of Power record. And maybe he took a break while they were trying to get their shit together and actually write some more songs for the record. Like he couldn't stand over them and breathe down their necks and say, well, you need to change that riff and you need to do this. And, it's like, you guys, you're really slow and you need to pick up the pace and this and that. I don't think was that kind of a producer. So I think maybe he was on break from the first sessions with.
So the songs that you guys wrote, did you do demos of those? Do those songs exist anywhere? I guess is my question.
Yes, they do. And I don't know if I have the tapes, but we ended up, the other guys ended up, they were writing so many songs, it was like I couldn't even figure out lyrics for the songs. It was like I was overwhelmed. And while I was trying to write lyrics for the songs, we had Warner Brothers, Geffen, Interscope.
Yeah, this is around still the time when record labels were throwing money around, right?
Chrysalis, yes. Yeah. And we had all of these labels that were interested. Our last show, Warner Brothers said, come in on Monday. We're going to sit with the president, and he's just going to open the checkbook. You figure out what you want, and we'll give it to you.
Right.
You know, and it
sounded pretty good. Sounded pretty good to a guy who's been playing in hardcore bands.
Yeah. You know, going out and playing shows and, you know, driving hundreds of miles to get to them.
So what happened? I know what happened, but go ahead and tell.
What happened was that the guys that were playing in the band had all become disinterested.
Yeah.
They'd all lost their patience. See, the band only lasted like a couple of years, and I had a plan. Each time I approached one of these record labels, it's like, we don't need it. What they're doing at that time is you don't make a record for any of these labels for less than like $150,000, $200,000.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
You know, you're paying a producer a minimum $50 to $75 to $100,000 to produce your record. And then what they'll do is they'll listen to your record and they'll grab a handful of tracks off of it. Like, these are the songs we think are going to be like the songs that'll get played on the radio. Yeah. And we're going to have them remixed by, there were all of these mixer dudes that were getting like, I think that one of the guys was getting like $2,500 per song.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like, you know, now all of a sudden, what's left for the band? You know, I got to put these guys on salary. You know, they got to be able to pay their bills.
Right.
You know, and a couple of them are drug addicts. You know, he's got to be able to buy his cocaine, and the other guy needs to develop a crack habit, and you know, he's got to be able to buy his crack. And
one guy's a sex addict; he's got to get prostitutes. Yeah, got it.
You know, all of that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
I actually, all of the guys that I work with, they were all really, really good guys.
So those songs, is any possibility of ever releasing those songs that you did with Daniel Ray? Because I can imagine they're great songs, because Daniel Ray is renowned for being a great songwriter in New York.
Not only was the stuff that he wrote, I thought was like really, really happening, but the guys out here it was like a competition between the three other guys in the band to see who could write the most songs. Keith, you got to listen to this. You got to write lyrics for this. And it's like I'm still trying to write lyrics for 6 other songs, and I'm just like, I'm losing my mind, and it's like, what am I getting into here? And then we finally, we'd gone through 4 guitar players, and the last lineup, the 2 guitar players had decided that they were going to start a band, and it was like, I don't want to be competing with all these other bands.
Right. Well, okay. Well, I'd like to hear. I hope the Daniel Ray songs that you did with him come out someday. 2 more questions, if you don't mind. Somebody, a friend of mine, a listener of the show, I guess I should say, said that the Circle Jerks played a gig with Fishbone as the backing band. Is that true? Because I never heard about that.
We probably played, I want to say downtown L.A.
He said he went to a show and Fishbone was the backing band. And you were the singer, and you played all Circle Jerks tunes.
Oh, no, that never happened.
He's wrong. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, but they love the Circle Jerks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're big Circle Jerks fans, just like we're big fans of theirs.
Yeah, okay, the guy's full of shit. I knew he was.
And those guys should be ultra mega.
Okay. I'm going to call out Dave Slusher as being full of shit. He's lying to me. See, he never saw Circle Jerks with Fishbone.
I did a thing with Norwood and
Angelo. Oh, so you did.
They do Trulio Disgracious.
Okay.
Now maybe
that's what he
might have seen that where I did like a couple of Circle Jerk songs, and also a couple of Bug Lamp songs. And a couple of covers. I think I did like 6 songs. It was just traveling like a review.
Okay, that's probably what he saw. Are you a big Alice Cooper fan? Because the version of Ballad of Dwight Fry is a great version.
I'm looking at the poster, which is hanging on my wall in my living room.
In that documentary, you're sitting in front of that poster, and I Was a Teenage Jerk. I think you're sitting in front of that poster, right?
I hope so.
Love It to Death poster, right?
That's the album cover.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Alice Cooper album.
Yeah. Well, all 4 of those Bob Ezrin albums are some of 4 of the greatest albums ever made.
Well, they continually got to the point where at a certain point they were one of the biggest bands in the world.
Yeah. Those Love It to Death, Killer, School's Out, and $1 Billion Babies are just unbelievable albums. Anyway, all right, one more question, Keith Morris. Thank you for doing this, by the way. You said in the book that when you went to New York, you bought your favorite Golden Earring album on the street, and it was signed by the band. What was the name of the Golden Earring album?
It was Moontown.
Moontown. I figured it was Moontown.
And that's their
the best one.
Popular album because it has Radar Love on it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of great songs on that album.
Yeah.
Okay, Keith Morris. Thank you for doing this.
It was ripped off by the
the girl,
the gal that I was living with. Her boyfriend,
right? Yeah,
needed dope money. And
was it really signed by the guys in Golden Earring?
The guy actually, I bought it on the street, and the guy probably also worked in a record store, and consequently, he had I want to say 10 autographed albums, and if it wasn't signed by Golden Earring, I don't really know how to answer that.
Right.
I mean, you normally when you buy autographed records on the internet now, there's
a certificate of authenticity.
Yeah, they have the paperwork that comes along with it, and.
It doesn't matter. At least if it's got the signatures, if in your mind it's a signature of the band, it don't matter if it really was or not.
Well, they're one of my favorite bands, and it would have eventually.
That's a great. Was it the gatefold with the guy, the German gatefold? I don't know if you have, because I have the original one pressing from the '70s, and it gatefolds out, and it's got the naked. Lady on the outside, and on the inside it's got a guy in a hazardous suit or something like that.
Right.
Naked. Yeah, it's the gatefold.
Yeah.
Was that the one?
That's
it was
the lead singer.
Was that the vinyl that you bought? Was it that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. All right. Well, Keith Morris, I could ask you a million questions, but I don't want to take up your entire night because. You got.
I got to eat.
Yeah, and you got
I'm a diabetic.
Football to watch too on the TV.
Well, I got a couple of emails that I got to check out and respond to.
Right. Well, thank you for doing this crappy podcast. I really appreciate it, Keith Morris.
Well, you want to do it again sometime? Just hit me up on the internet.
I will definitely do that. Thank you.
Just reach out through the ether.
Okay, I will. All right. I looked for you on the Facebook. I couldn't find you. Do you have a secret identity on Facebook?
No, I'm on Facebook. And
just Keith Morris?
My Facebook photo is like this multicolor. I did a little photo session with some friends where I stepped into the living room and they had this wig that was it looked like something out of the Addams Family.
Like a thin,
and
thin wig.
It was like 6 feet long, and I'm only 5'5".
Right.
But it's a multicolor photo that's been processed. It's red, purple, blue, and green. You can't miss it. It's just like, what the fuck?
Right.
And I use it because when you're responding to all of these people and all of a sudden somebody responds to you, you go back and you see where you're at in line on the fucking thread and, you know, all that fun shit.
Right. Yeah, Facebook will do that.
Right on.
All right. Well, thank you, Keith Morris. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope I made up for not, you know, making it last week.
Yeah, I appreciate you making good on it. And the last episode I did, I just want you know, was called "The Greatness of Keith Morris." So I said I just talked about how great you were, and I played a bunch of music, and I said if Keith Morris flakes on me this time, the next episode will be. Keith Morris is an asshole, so I don't have to do that episode. Thank you very much.
You know what? But I've been called that so many times it would have just bounced right off me.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it anyway. You made good, and you're a good person for doing it. And I really appreciate it, Keith Morris.
Well, you're welcome.
All right,
Michael. Thanks for your time.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Have a good rest of your night.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye. There you go, Keith Morris. I hope you liked that. I did. All right, should we close out with a song? All right, let me see if I can find a Circle Jerks tune. Circle Jerks. All right, I'm doing this from the Mountain House, so it might take a minute for it to come down. How about something from Golden Shower of Hits? Here is Coup d'etat. Thank you so much for listening, friends. And thank you, Keith Morris, for doing this podcast. I really appreciate it. He's a good guy. It was a very interesting talk. I think he's got a good dry wit about him, and I like that. He's my kind of guy. All right. rockandrollgeek@gmail.com is the email address. You find the show at rockandrollgeek.com. Find me on the Facebook, R&R Geek. Find me on the Twitter, R&R Geek. Find me on the Instagram, Rock and Roll Geek. Don't ask. It's a value for value. As you know, if you got any value out of this, the show lives on donations, and whatever value you can contribute, I really appreciate it, friends. Here's Coup d'etat. I'll talk to you soon. Coup d'etat. Here we go. Coup d'etat. Give me a bomb. A Molotov. It's a coup d'etat. Generalissimo sets up shop. Step on a line. Next on a block. Armies marching through the streets. Trust no shock. Trust will need. Coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. Overheard drunks sitting in bars, talking about sex, talking about cars, talking about football, women at lunch. They just keep talking, but don't say much. I'm a product of my environment. My vocabulary's like licking the gutter. Words that cut so sharp, cut like a hot knife through butter. Not my fault, but then again, schools and teachers were never my friends. Nothing's wrong with a little education. I don't need a new vocation. I'm a product of my environment. Things that occur, events take place that will wipe the smile right off your face. Traffic, smog, movies,
It's a rock and roll geek train wreck.